Everything looked really good on paper. They had a board of elders, they had a personnel committee, they had quarterly reviews, they had annual surveys in their church. Every accountability structure seemed to be in place, except the one that mattered, the kind that worked. Because when the pastor started making questionable decisions, nobody really pushed back. When staff raised concerns early on, they were asked if they'd pray about it. Full set. Cast of characters, convincing script. But when the spotlight came, when the platform was there, it turns out it was all for show. Hi there. My name is Todd Rhoades. I'm one of the co-founders over at chemistrystaffing.com and your host here on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. We are in the middle of a 2-week series. We started on Monday of this week. Go back and listen to those. If you've missed any so far, they all build on one another. We're taking a look at a series we're calling When the Church Falls, and it's based on a brand new book that I'm just releasing this week. It's called When the Church Falls, What We Can Learn from Leadership Collapses and How to Prevent the Next One, both in your church and in you as a leader. And today we're looking at accountability structures, accountability plans and structures. And the first thing I would like to say as we kind of dig right in, because we've only got just a few minutes here, that churches that have good structure does not mean that they have good accountability. Structure does not guarantee accountability. Most churches assume that they have accountability. There's a board, there's bylaws, maybe there's an HR person, or maybe you outsource to an HR firm. But accountability is not just a form to fill out, it's a function of leadership culture. The system exists. There's an accountability system there, but there's no spine to it. There's no real accountability to the accountability. What does this look like? Sometimes the boards are just stacked with friends and with yes men and yes women and fans. Sometimes elders who feel obligated to trust the man of God. He's our pastor. We can never question that. Sometimes that happens when they say there's accountability, but there's really not. Sometimes there's evaluations that happen, but they avoid all the hard topics. And if there is a whistleblower, if there's anybody that raises a concern, if there's anybody that kind of makes waves at all, they get punished. They get punished. Accountability fails a lot of times because people in power don't want to lose control. I said it. There, I said it. Okay? This is true, man. This is true in business, but this is true in the church. And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say this out loud, but I've thought it for years. Accountability fails a lot of times because people in power don't want to lose their control. Let's be honest. We talked about this yesterday, or 2 days ago, I believe. We often in the church confuse charisma with character. And a lot of times we fear conflict more than we fear corruption. We want to protect the mission, even if it means ignoring the cracks. We spiritualize, we over-spiritualize loyalty, and often the board starts answering to the pastor rather than the other way around. That's inverted accountability, and it's absolutely everywhere. I've seen this happen over and over in the church. And here's how I want to tie this together with what we're talking about here with leadership falls and church falls. In every major scandal, we're looking at some of the things that are commonplace in all of these things, all of these major things that we've seen. In every major scandal, every single one of them, the structures were in place. They had an accountability structure, but the accountability structure didn't hold people accountable. Harvest Bible Chapel in Chicago, they had a board. Willow Creek, they had policies. Ravi Zacharias had structure. In every case, though, those warning signs flashed for years. They flashed for years. We said on Monday, these things, we read the headlines and we think, oh my goodness, that happened overnight. A lot of times those warning signs have been going on for years. Elders raised concerns and were dismissed or pressured to resign. How many of these, when you hear about a big church or even a small church that failed? I just read another one just yesterday, about an elder that raised a concern and had to resign or was pushed out. But there were warning signs. There were people that raised some concerns. And yet the accountability that was supposed to be in place failed. Sometimes victims came forward and they were questioned instead of believed. The problem was not, and usually is not, a lack of systems. Your church can have an absolutely great accountability system on paper. The problem wasn't the lack of systems. The problem was a failure of culture. Accountability isn't for bad leaders. It's for all leaders. Let me say that again. That's an important point. Accountability isn't for bad leaders. We often think bad leaders need accountability, right? Because we need to keep them in check. Accountability isn't for bad leaders. It's for all leaders. You don't build guardrails because you expect to crash. You build guardrails because you know that everybody around you is capable of crashing. Real accountability needs independent voices with real authority. They need the permission to ask the hard questions. They need shared power. They need term limits. Yep, term limits. They need transparent systems. And whenever you see a church that falls or a leader that falls, I will bet you my bottom dollar, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would, that somewhere along the line, not yesterday or today, but for an ongoing period of time, there was an accountability structure. Sure, there was, but it failed. All right, so here's the bottom line for today. Don't build a stage. Build a circle. Don't settle for accountability theater. That's what I call it. When you have an accountability plan, but it really doesn't have any teeth to it. Don't settle for accountability theater. Demand the real thing. Demand the real thing, because accountability is for every leader. Here's your action step for today. Who can challenge me? If you're a senior pastor, who can challenge you? Who do you allow to challenge you? And actually, when was the last time anybody challenged you and changed your direction? And if you're on a board, ask, are we here to affirm? Are we here to say yes all the time? Or are we here to oversee? Tough questions. This is a tough topic. And my book, you can catch a copy of it. I hope you will. Order a copy of it. I think this would be a great study, actually, for a church board or a church team. You can grab them. We have some bulk discounts available as well. whenthechurchfalls.com. And there's a free accountability health assessment there. There's one for pastors. There's one and church staff people. There's also one for elders and church board members that will help you to assess where you are. Because here, it's just you and me here talking, okay? Nobody, it's just us. I want to safeguard you so that you don't ever find yourself in a situation where you embarrass yourself, your family, your church, because you did something stupid. And when people do something stupid, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. So we're looking at those things that happen over time, and hopefully we can eliminate. That's what the whole purpose of this book and this series is, to eliminate. I get so tired of hearing about church pastors and churches falling. And I just want to scream out, stop it. The enemy is active, and I want to thwart that as much as I can. So whenthechurchfalls.com is the website address. Take the assessment, purchase the book. And if you've got any comments, maybe you're in a position where you need a consultant or a coach or just somebody you can talk to, reach out to me, podcast@chemistrystaffing.com. I know this is going to hit a nerve with a lot of people, so reach out, podcast@chemistrystaffing.com. All right, that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow, finishing out our first week here on this series here on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast.